The class Queer Studies and Women of Color goes a lot further than maybe the initial assumption of a limiting title. And limiting in the way of, I think when a lot of people look at that, you think that it's just two categories of identity and that it's not looking at this broader scope. But in reality, when you look deeper into the meaning of what we are studying in this class, you see how there's layers and layers of intersectional dynamics and relationships at play. But in order to do that, in order to be able to look at something that way and understand and have this cultural competency about varying individual experiences because of different parts of their identities, such as gender, race, sexuality, ethnicity, disability, those are all moving parts to someone's identity. And this class is about decolonializing and deconstructing our thinking when we approach understanding how the relationship of identity and all the different parts of it interact with systems of society, and such as, let's say, capitalism, because you cannot understand a system in society without being able to understand the relationship between someone's identity and how that system is built and who that system serves. And with intersectionality, we can look at, for example, how a white woman, how they receive treatment from society and how they benefit from certain systems or don't benefit from certain systems. That is very different than how a woman of color would be treated in society. And that is very different from how a queer woman of color would be treated in society, but not just in society as a whole, but in different spaces. And so it's about looking at all these different, through forms of art, through other forms of media, and seeing how these different parts of women of color and queer women of color, how their identities interact, and what that exposes and what certain views and what certain voices aren't really allowed to be heard in mainstream society, mainstream media, and why that is. But we're also moving beyond this idea of diversity and just accepting the other voices that aren't heard, and instead rejecting this idea that there is an other, but also understanding why it's been labeled as an other, and instead having a sense of cultural competency of learning who these voices are and what experiences are behind these voices, rather than these voices are immediately the other.